On the seas of the Tablas Strait, it was just another night. The sky was an uninterrupted expanse of blackness, and the sea was still. Hundreds of people boarded the MV Doña Paz and went to bed, not realizing that their voyage would end horribly in a matter of hours. On the evening of December 20th, 1987, a date that would go down in nautical history, Sulpicio Line's Philippine passenger ferry, the Doña Paz, sailed from Tacloban to Manila. Many passengers were traveling home to celebrate with their loved ones during the busiest time of the year, which was Christmas. But for over 4,000 souls on board, the only thing that awaited them was fire, chaos, and the unforgiving depths of the sea. Officially, the Doña Paz was only supposed to carry around 1,500 passengers, but that night, it was filled far beyond its intended capacity. Men, women, and children were crammed into every available space, many without tickets, their names unregistered. The crew, if they knew, turned a blind eye. After all, this was nothing new. As the ferry glided through the waters, another vessel moved on a collision course. An oil tanker named MT Vector. It was loaded with thousands of barrels of highly flammable petroleum products, its volatile cargo sloshing beneath the deck. The crew of the Vector, some said, were unqualified, their navigation careless, and the fates, it seemed, had already decided the outcome of this night. It happened just before midnight, a violent, sudden impact. Passengers were awakened by the collision of the two ships. There was a moment of eerie silence, and then the world ignited. The MT Vector's load caught fire instantly, causing a roaring wave of flames to sweep across the ocean. Burning in a fire, the Doña Paz turned into a floating hell. Everything in their way was devoured by flames. It was impossible to breathe because of the thick black smoke in the air. The heat was too much to endure. There was nowhere for the passengers to go. Desperate to survive, some rushed for the railings and threw themselves overboard. The sea, however, was no haven. The ocean itself had become a sea of fire as the burning fuel from Vector had dispersed across the water's surface. There was no way out. There was no sign of the ship's crew. Both emergency procedures and life vests were absent. Panic spread as the ferry was devoured by the flames. Families were split up in the confusion, and kids were lost in the shadows. A few people said a prayer. Others let out a yell. The Doña Paz was consumed by the sea and the fire in a matter of minutes. Rescue arrived slowly. The burning wreckage was spotted by passing ships, but by the time help arrived, it was already too late. Only 26 of the thousands on board made it out alive. The world awoke to the news of the greatest maritime tragedy in peacetime history. There were investigations. They pointed fingers. However, there would never be a substitute for the lives lost. Fathers, mothers, and kids. What about the Doña Paz? Her name will always be associated with one of the darkest nights at sea, and she will always be a spectral legend. Decades later, fishermen continue to report seeing unusual lights beneath the waters and wind-borne voices pleading for assistance that never materialized. Numerous sailors who have navigated the waters close to the crash site report seeing spectral apparitions. Some describe ghostly entities with lifeless, empty eyes standing still on the water's surface. Others claim to have heard whispering in the middle of the night, pleas for help, voices of women and children crying before vanishing into the wind. Fishermen who dare approach describe how their boats suddenly seem cold and how they felt as though someone is watching them from a distance. Hands have reportedly surfaced from the depths and brushed against their ships' hulls. The burnt ashes of the Doña Paz shimmer in the moonlight before disappearing, And some people think they have seen the Doña Paz herself, her charred remains flickering in the moonlight before fading away like a mirage. One survivor, decades after the tragedy, claimed to have dreamt of the ship nearly every night. He saw its corridors still burning, passengers wandering endlessly in search of an escape. And in those dreams, he always awoke before he too became one of them. Years later, a diver assigned to investigate the wreckage reported seeing something strange. He recalled that as soon as he stepped down, he felt a heavy presence. He was shining his torch into the skeletal remnants of the ship when he noticed movement. Figures moving along rusting passages and shifting in the darkness. Shaken, he surfaced and refused to go back. A skipper of a merchant vessel described an experience that was more terrifying than most. While traveling through the region one evening, his radar picked up an approaching ship, one that wasn't supposed to be there. He became aware that something was amiss when the lights began to flicker wildly and a huge ship's shadow appeared in the distance. The ship was unnaturally motionless and silent. He recognized the name on the side as it came closer. Doña Paz. Then, in an instant, it was gone. Strange events along the shore are reported by the local inhabitants. Fishermen discover their nets cut inexplicably, as though they were tampered with by invisible hands. People say they saw a woman standing on the beach in raggedy clothing, dripping wet, but she disappeared as they got close. Some claim that the laments of the lost souls reverberate over the seas in the dead of night. Where no ship should be, lights appear, wet footsteps, as if invisible passengers had wandered on board, have been discovered on decks by sailors as they wake up. Divers speak of spectral hands reaching for them and drawing them nearer to the abyss in the pitch-black depths where the ship lies. The tragedy of the Doña Paz never subsided, even if the flames perished and the ship dropped into the depths. Ever restless, the water whispers the names of those gone in the breaking waves as reminders that some souls never left the sea. Fishermen and sailors still whisper in low tones of faraway lights on the water and of ghostly figures floating through the mist. Thanks for watching. Good nightmares and stay scared.